Good morning, Faith UCC.
Hi, everybody. Keno and Lars are playing again today. When Robert Schumann was a young man, he couldn't decide if he wanted to be an author or a composer. So his father sent him to law school. That sounds about right still now, doesn't it? But he still let him take music lessons, and so he was taking piano lessons, and he fell in love with his piano teacher's daughter. So that cinched the music career for him. He married her. He composed so many beautiful things, but then they started having babies. And they had 7 kids, and when they were old enough, the kids were old enough to start playing the piano, he couldn't find anything that was easy enough for starting kids. So he wrote an album of music for children. And this is one of those songs, and if any of you ever took piano lessons or lessons on any other instrument, you probably played The Happy Farmer. Well, Carolyn thinks it's good for us because we're like a bunch of children. But it's true. It's not funny.
Good morning and welcome everyone to Faith UCC. Would you please join me for the gathering litany? We are here to praise and enjoy God with body and soul, mind and heart, with song and word, with hands and feet. We are here to give because of the abundance God has given us, to share with each other and to receive, because God has created us to depend on each other. We are here to celebrate the difference that otherwise might divide us. Differences of age, of body, culture, of opinion, of ability, of religious conviction. We are here to put things in perspective, to celebrate what matters, to laugh about things we take too seriously, to cry about things that truly touch our hearts. So may it be so this morning. May it be so. Amen. For those who are able, would you please rise up and join me for the opening hymn, Praise to the Living God. Good morning and welcome again. Welcome to Faith United Church of Christ. A special welcome to all our visitors, whether in person here in the sanctuary or those joining us online. If you're in person, please sign our friendship book in the foyer so that we may add you to our newsletter and email news list. And if you're online, just send an email to office@faithucc.org, and we will add you to that same news email list. And for those of you who do not know, my name is Tom Miller, and I will be leading worship today, and Nan Dahlberg will be preaching. And if you're wondering where Pastor Mike is, he is in Indianapolis, as many of us know, this weekend for the Bands of America Grand National Championship with his daughter's Tarpon Springs Performance Marching Band. He sends his greetings, and he will be back in the office on Tuesday.
I actually have an announcement about that.
I know, I was going to say, you can make the announcement if you want, Casey. How they finished?
Tarpon swept all 3 of their awards. And they won the 2A class championship, and they finished class national championship, and they finished 4th in the overall national championship. And Mike is back. He just landed about 20 minutes before the service.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, it's really amazing that Tarpon Springs finished #1 in the country in their division. So, I mean, that's just phenomenal. 4th overall in the whole country. So kudos to Mike and the band and everybody involved. I've been mentoring a student there, and I actually get to mentor different students occasionally, and one of the students was in the band, and I'll tell you, just the commitment, I can't even imagine the amount of time that they put into it. So congratulations to everyone involved there. I know we have some special joys to share. I think we've got a birthday, Karen, Wednesday, I believe. So happy birthday.
And Mary Boyd is
So-
19th.
Who?
Mary Boyd.
Mary Boyd on the 19th. And actually, Mary, you share a birthday with a close friend of mine, Leah Postema. So she is joining us online. So happy birthday, Leah. Any other birthdays to share? Okay. As far as other joys, one thing I wanted to share, because I think a lot of us have been feeling down after some of the recent events. And thank you, Lori, for sharing something online. And I'm going to borrow it this morning because with everything that's been going on, there are some positives that have been happening. And so, as I say, I'm going to steal this from what you, I think, shared on our private page. But there have been some accomplishments in Florida in 2024. We may not always see them. They're not as visual to us. But we are, as many of us know, the front line for the country. And we should not be afraid of Project 2025. We have already been there with Florida 2024. There were 22 anti-LGBTQ bills and proposals, and we killed 21 of them. The one that got through will also be destroyed, so we feel very good about that. And also, we largely defeated Moms for Liberty and the Proud Boys. So I felt like that was sharing as a joy because we get so down and depressed on everything that's going on, but there are some really good things going on, and I think the importance of social justice, and that's another thing, this church just looking at what's been going on behind the scenes and how many people feel so compassionate about it. To me, that's a joy we're sharing. And now, at this time, are there any other joys real quick before we move on to Marge Miller, who is going to share a stewardship moment with us? Okay. Yes, thank you.
People came and we just had a fabulous time.
Thank you.
Good morning, church. I'm Marge Miller, duh. And I've been a member of Faith UCC ever since my husband Don and I moved here around 9 years ago from New York, Long Island to be exact. All right, say it, Long Island. Okay, get it out of your system. I belong to UCC in Sayville, Long Island, but before that, I was a Methodist. How, or should I say, why did I make the leap from Methodist to UCC? Here's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Each one of us has a story after all, and probably some of you have already heard mine, but I'll keep it brief. Don and I both grew up in the Bronx. Yay. Go Bronx. My parents were not religious. My mother's family was Methodist in the deep south of North Carolina. My Jewish father came to this country from Poland through Ellis Island when he was just 16, before the days of Hitler. My siblings and I were not raised in any religion, though we celebrated Christmas and Easter like everyone. Both of Don's parents were Jewish, but non-practicing. In fact, this was in the early to mid-40s, when Jewish people, even here in the US, were reluctant to reveal their Jewishness. Anti-Semitism was rampant. My friends were either Jewish or Catholic, and occasionally I would go with them to synagogue or church on one of their holidays. But since I didn't speak or understand Hebrew or Latin, it went way over my head. Whenever I was asked my religion, I would say I'm half Jewish and half Protestant. Deep down, though, I didn't want to be a half person. I wanted to be a whole something. But that didn't happen for a long time. It wasn't until my older son got engaged and he and his fiancée started to look for a church to get married in that they ended up finding a Methodist church that they liked and decided to join. I would go with them now and then, and eventually I started to feel like I would like to belong and be baptized and become what I thought of as a whole person. So at the age of 45, Pastor Gary Betts baptized me into the United Methodist Church. Diane and Glenn Adone were there to witness it. Well, let me tell you, Reverend Betts had a hard time picking me up to show me to the congregation, as pastors like to do. I lost my place here. Okay. I need a second here. I got carried away. I joined the church, and I had many other roles in the church. One thing that stood out for me and really bothered me about the Methodist Church was its doctrine in their governing book of discipline. It was sinful, they believed, for gay people to be in ministry and for same-sex marriage. They thought it was sinful. We think their stand was sinful. But hoping to make a change in that stand, I joined the bishop's task force for a reconciling ministry that was looking to change those couple of paragraphs in the book of discipline, but was faced with tremendous opposition. As an aside, it finally happened just this year, decades later, that the Methodist Church has changed its stand, but this church had to split in two to make that happen. But I digress. What caused me to leave the Methodist Church happened when my younger son, my gay son, said to me, "Ma, how can you contribute to a church that is totally against me and all gay people?" Eureka, a light bulb moment. I said, "You know, I can't. So then I found my way to UCC in Sayville and joined, and I have never regretted that. When we moved from New York to Florida, I looked for a UCC church, Googled it, I'm sure. When we drove by Faith UCC and saw the rainbow flag, that was it. We walked in, were greeted by Carol Kriebel, and we had to look no further. We found our church home. Thank you, Jesus. I know that the rainbow flag is what has attracted and welcomed many of us here to faith, but it's really much more than just being open and affirming, isn't it? It's about being a community of faith, being part of a congregation that truly, let me repeat that, truly seeks equality and justice for everyone. A church that questions and discusses and welcomes conversation. It's hard to even say how much Faith UCC means to me, to us. It means everything. When we come here every Sunday morning, and anyone who knows me knows I don't do mornings. But every Sunday, we enter into a safe place, a place where we share the same basic values and speak openly about how we feel. Truly a sanctuary in every sense of the word. I know I love walking into church on Sunday and being greeted warmly by everyone as if I hadn't seen them in years. Sometimes it's just hours. I love all the programs we have, the encouragement to bring new ideas into this space. When a few years ago, some of the women wanted to create a women's circle, it was totally supported, and we were able to create the Anam Cara Women's Circle to bring forth wonderful programs and experiences, like yesterday's tea. And what about my personal passion, the labyrinth? Need I say more? If you haven't taken a walk around the labyrinth, you must. It's really fabulous. In addition to our Random Acts of Flowers and Together Women Rise ministry, we have many groups for book discussion, social justice, meditation, HEP, and our environmental green team. Go green. And of course, there's our fantastic music program. Really, what more could you want? I look back over the last few years and I am proud and honored and indeed privileged to be a part of such a vibrant and smart, caring group of people. Here at Faith UCC, we embrace all faiths, all beliefs, and I came to realize that being half and half was never about being either or. It was always both and. That two halves make a whole. And here it is, the pitch you've been waiting for. Wait for it. It takes money to be able to keep these doors open, to have a pastor and staff to bring this church to life each week. It takes money to have lights and air conditioning. Hey, we live in Florida, for Christ's sake. So oops, for goodness sake.
Amen.
Whoops. So we pledge and to keep it going. We all benefit from being here, and think about the year ahead, how much we will need each other to hold on to. Just look at how filled our seats were last Sunday when we needed a safe place to share our frustration and anger over the current political situation. When we sang "We Shall Overcome" last week, I and many others were brought to tears. And that's another thing. We shed tears together as well as joyful laughter. This is our place. We are blessed. I truly believe that each one of us who benefits from what this church offers should pledge to keep it going. No one should have to beg for money. Pledge whatever you can. I feel like now I should say, send in $19.99 a month, just 63 cents a day, and we'll give you this adorable blanket or a t-shirt like you hear on TV. Or a cup, maybe. You all know how much money you need each week to pay the bills. Well, so does Faith UCC. We all like a goal, just like how many pounds of food we give to Dunedin Cares and how much peanut butter and jelly we can contribute. All of that's remarkable and wonderful. How about setting another goal for Faith UCC this year? Let's get 100% membership pledges. Yes, we can do it. This is a generous church. Whatever you can afford will be sending a message that we believe in this church and we want to keep it going and solvent. If you haven't already filled out the pledge sheet, please pick one up today and turn it in. I am. So should you. That's it.
Thank you very much, Marge. All right, now let's journey into a moment of centering. I invite everyone to take a couple deep, calming breaths, breathing in the present moment, releasing anxiety and worry. Then take some deep breaths just to relax, let out those worries. Wendy is going to now offer us a centering reading. Wendy?
Sorry, Mike didn't tell me his centering video had audio.
In the startle of a baby's first cry, in the sigh of one passing through the veil, you are there. In the excitement of a youngster's first day of school, in the trepidation of a senior's beginning retirement, you are there. In a couple's anticipation of their nuptials, in the disappointing dissolution of a marriage, you are there. When happiness overwhelms, when we need comfort and consolation, you are there. Brilliance, radiance, joy, sadness, despair, discouragement, hope, patience, surprise, all fleeting moments in our calm and chaotic world, you are there. Have we noticed? Have we given thanks?
Good morning, church. Our reading today comes from the Gospel of Mark, chapter 12. As he taught, Jesus said, "Watch out for the teachers of the law. They like to walk around in flowing robes and be greeted with respect in the marketplaces and have the most important seats in the synagogues and the places of honor at banquets. They devour widows' houses and for a show make lengthy prayers. These men will be punished most severely." Jesus sat down opposite the place where the offerings were put and watched the crowd putting their money into the temple treasury. Many rich people threw in very large amounts, but a poor widow came and put in 2 very small copper coins, worth only a few cents. Calling his disciples to him, Jesus said, "Truly, I tell you, this poor widow has put more into the treasury than all the others. They all gave out of their wealth, but she, out of her poverty, put in everything, all she had to live on."
Hi. I have some good news and some bad news. The good news is I'm back. The bad news is I'm about to give you Marge Miller 2.0. I want to thank you. This is, I think, the 3rd time I've preached this year, and every time I do, I get lots of wonderful comments, and you've all been very affirming, and that feels really good. Someone usually says, "You missed your calling. You should have been a stand-up comic." And someone usually says, "I wish I'd been a member of your church. It would have been a laugh riot every week." No, it wouldn't. You see, it's really easy to be entertaining for 2 or 3 sermons a year, and that's all you've asked me to do. But when you do 46 to 48 a year, being funny isn't really in the cards. Because I was called not to be a comedian, but to be in Christian ministry. And my goal as a pastor was never to be just funny. My goal then, and yes now, was to leave people thinking, reevaluating, thinking about their beliefs or their choices, or at the very least, leave the sermon saying, "Wow, I need to think about that," or "Wow, that was something I'd never considered," or "Wow, I just learned something." Now, I don't always get the best wow. One time, I was asked to be a guest preacher at a church I'd never been to before, and after the sermon, a man came up to me and took my hand, looked me square in the eye, and said, "I'll never be the same." He said, "After your sermon today, my life is changed radically." I looked at him and said, "My goodness, what did I say that made such a difference?" He said, "Well," he said, "you stood up and started to speak, and I said to myself, 'George, you need a hearing aid.'" True story. So as I said the last time I preached, that when you get ready to do a sermon, what do? You look at the calendar. And yes, it's Stewardship Month. And so I've decided to preach the unpopular but crucial topic of stewardship. Or that's a nice way of saying, how do we support this church? Now, money is an unpopular topic. No pastor wants to alienate a member of the congregation by suggesting that they aren't giving enough, or that they could give more, or they could be more generous, or that they could give something at all. But I'm not your pastor. I have 35 years' experience in ministry behind me, so I know how this works. I know what to say, and I know what needs to be done. I had one woman on a Sunday after a stewardship sermon go out saying, "I'm never coming back to this church again." And I looked at her and I said, "I'm sorry to hear that. What was it I said?" And she said, "You made me feel guilty." And I looked her square in the eye and said, "Honey, you pay me to make you feel guilty." Another true story. Every year we talk about time, talent, and treasure. But it's important that you know that that's not multiple choice. It's important that you know that each of us needs to give of our time, talent, and treasure. So how would you characterize your giving or your generosity? How would you talk about the discipline you have in your life of giving? I'd like to give you a few examples today, some good examples and maybe some bad examples that maybe we can learn from and that I have experienced. First, giving needs to be without strings attached. Now, in one former church that I served, we had beautiful banners, 6 or 8 of them around the sanctuary. We had those banners done by hand by a friend of mine who I knew, who we paid her for her wonderful artistic skills. They were my idea, but the church enjoyed them, and they were wonderful. I had them there for my entire ministry. Now, what would happen if, when I left that congregation, I said to that group of people, "I'm taking the banners with me"? Well, they would say, "Well, no, Pastor, we paid for those banners." And what if I said, "Oh, okay, I'll give you $5,000, then I'll take the banners"? What would happen? Of course, that church wouldn't let me do that, and of course, I would never suggest that I do that. But the larger issue is, what would that say about me, about the church, about the banners? It would be about trust and loyalty and identity. If I suggested that I wanted to take those banners, even if I didn't, it would change everyone's view of me. I would be irreparably marked by that decision, because generosity is also about power and control. Now, you may think that my story about taking the banners is a little far-fetched, but I can tell you that I know of a church that closed its doors after a century of ministry. And when the final days of the church were coming close, a family came in one night and ripped up the carpeting in the church parlor. Why? Because their parents had donated that carpeting 30 years before. True. I have served churches where people have taken hymnals after we stopped using them because their family's name was in the front flyleaf cover. I've known churches where when they remodeled, people took out the pews because they paid for them. So how should we give? We should give with no strings attached. So the next question is, why do you come to this church? Ours is a faith of inspiring generosity and radical hospitality in a world where both of those are in short supply. Our core identity lies here at Faith in the quality of the relationships we have with one another and with the world outside. This is a safe space, but that isn't free. The Bible is full of references to money. The Old and the New Testament are unapologetic about the values associated with money, and Jesus, too, and I agree with you, Marge, it is for Christ's sake, addressed the subject of money with regularity. It was Jesus' second favorite topic. It was right after the kingdom of God. And the story of the widow's mite and Jesus' response to her gift is a story that's been used ever since the first offering plate was invented. And the kingdom of God is that experience we all have, what we want. It's about seeking fairness and freedom and safety and justice for all. And all of that takes money. So the scene is set beside the treasury in the temple with the rich people coming and the poor widow giving all she had. So what would happen? What would happen if you gave all that you have? Well, I'll tell you, you'd need a psych evaluation. In today's world, that is an impossibility. Your next of kin would seek custody of your finances. All you have is not generosity, it's insanity. Because it's not rational. It is, in fact, irresponsible in our world. Why? Because if I ask everyone here to bring all of the food that they have in their house in order for us to have a banquet, as was done in the New Testament, well, I don't know about you, but I'd have to rent a U-Haul. That's how much food we have. And so to ask us to give all that we have is ridiculous. That's how fortunate we are. Now, I want to share a story with you. Oh, you knew it was coming. How many of you know who Tony Campolo is? Anybody? A few? Oh, good. You have to be over 40, I'm sure, maybe over 50. But Tony was a motivational speaker. He was extremely popular. He would do over 100 engagements a year worldwide, and he was what might be called a radical Christian. He did some pretty outrageous stuff. One, just as an example, when he was in seminary, and he was a good friend of mine, when he was in seminary, he almost flunked out because in our middle year, we have to take the Minnesota multiphasic, and Tony answered yes to the question, do you hear God's voice telling you what to do? Yes, he said, I do. Well, this one time, Tony was coming back from a international location, and he was cranky and grouchy, and he'd been on a flight all day long. And trust me, you should never preach in those conditions. But he got a phone call as he got off the plane from his scheduler, who said that she'd made a terrible mistake, and unfortunately, he had to speak that evening at a place there in Philadelphia, his hometown. He wasn't prepared for that. He didn't want to do it. He wanted a hot shower and a warm bed, but there was nothing he could do. And so at the appointed hour, he went. And he was introduced lavishly. But before he came to the podium, the woman in charge read a letter from a missionary from some distant place, saying that they had just received it, and this ministry, which was a clinic, needed $9,000 because the clinic had burned to the ground. It had served women and children who desperately needed medical care and who would walk for days in order to get to the clinic. They needed $9,000. And so she said, Tony, would you lead us in prayer that somehow that $9,000 would be raised when we go back to our local churches and we tell our congregations about this need? And Tony stood up and said, hell no. He said, no, I won't. You want me to ask God to find $9,000? I wouldn't insult God with that request. He said, right now, I'll put everything I have in my wallet, which amounted to $42.74, into the offering plate. And I'm going to ask you to do the same. We aren't going to pray for that money. We're going to raise that money. We're going to give everything we have. But he said, I know that it's not everything we have, because you're going to go out and get in your car, and you're going to go home, and you're going to have a warm bed, and you're going to have a nice house, and you're going to have a checking account and a Visa card. It's not all that you have. But I'm asking you today to give all that you have. And reluctantly, people began to put money in the plates. Tony wasn't asking for their mortgage payment. He wasn't asking them to forego a meal. He wasn't asking them to make any kind of real sacrifice at all, just to give what they had that day in their wallet or their purse. How much money do you normally walk around with? If I have $40 in my billfold, it must be the beginning of the week. When the offering was counted, they had over $11,000, just from the women and their purses giving all that they had. So I'm wondering, if today we passed a plate and each of us put in all that we had, would we erase our church's deficit for this year? And would some of you be giving to this church for the very first time? Now, I'm not going to ask us to do that because I value my life. But I will tell you that in every church, there are those who don't give financially because they give only of their time and their talent. Remember that multiple choice? How special. Here's what that's like. I've served many churches, and I know that this happens. But let's suggest that you are invited to a community Thanksgiving where everyone is asked to bring a dish to share. Some will bring a whole turkey. Some will bring string bean casserole. Some will bring a bowl of nuts. But you show up empty-handed. And when someone asks, what did you bring? You reply, oh, I'm giving of my time and my talent, my glorious personality, and my wonderful conversational skills. Oh, and I'm going to help put all the chairs and tables away and clean up the dishes. I'll be participating in the cleanup. That's my gift. Now, what would happen if everyone had done that? Would be much of a feast. Now, I know that out there somewhere, one of you is looking sideways at the person sitting next to you and saying, well, she's just stopped preaching and gone to meddling. So I'm going to close before you start throwing fruit in your shoes. At this church, there is no entry fee. There are no dues. But church isn't free. I'd like to suggest that you give so that you don't feel guilty for giving so little, but that you don't give so much that you are resentful. This morning, I hope you will consider your generosity and see it in a new way. And maybe when you leave, you can say to me, wow, I hadn't thought of that. Amen.
At this point, before I move into the prayer, I'd like to share some concerns. I guess the first one, earlier I made the fatal error of wishing a very close personal friend of mine a happy birthday. So to clarify, because she's watching, my beloved fiance, Leah Postema. Hopefully I've been redeemed. We didn't have confession as part of the service, but I think that was appropriate.
You're forgiven.
I am, thank you. Well, that's from you, Carl. Did you get clarity from, where it counts? Jeez. There are some serious concerns. Not that that isn't, but obviously I've got to go home. A couple concerns, though. Kathy Glenn, who is ill, and she's been transferred to a skilled nursing facility for further care as she heals. So prayers for Kathy's healing and well-being. And Mike and Fran shared a couple other concerns, so I'm just going to pull them up real quick, hopefully. First of all, Dolores Abad is hospitalized right now. She had surgery and she is recovering. This one's very sad. Jenny Van Scoy's son passed away after a battle with cancer. So please keep her, daughter Sue, and the entire family in your thoughts and prayers. Any other concerns that we should be sharing this morning before I move into a moment of prayer? Okay. Now, as we go gently into a deeper time of stillness and prayer, let us tune into the eternal now of God that is glowing within us. And because that light glows in us, it glows in everyone. So let us first lift those people, places, situations, or concerns that we hold in our hearts into this sacred time and space that need a reminder of that light within. If anyone would like to share any names of people that are on their minds, feel free to do so now.
Lori and Catherine.
Michelle and Ron. Judith. Les Ambers. Karen and Rosie.
Ukraine and Gaza.
Chris.
Let us hold all of those named aloud before us and those that are held in the silence of our hearts in a moment of silent prayer together. As we journey back into the realm of words, we do so with the poetry from the Celtic mystic John Philip Newell. All things are born of you, O God. We carry within us your light and your life. In the mystery of matter and deep in the cells of our souls are your longings for oneness, the oneness of the universe vast and vibrating with the sound of its beginning, the oneness of the earth greening and teeming as a single body, the oneness of the human soul, a sacred countenance in infinite form. Grant us your longings for oneness, O God, amidst life's glorious multiplicities. Now let us join our voices in praying an interpretation of that ancient prayer that Jesus asked us to pray long ago. The words are on the screen. Indwelling God, infused throughout all existence, we honor you with many names. Your realm is within the human heart. We accept life for all that it can be, on earth as throughout all creation. May we continue to draw sustenance from this earth, and may we receive forgiveness equal to our own. May we ever move from separation toward union, to live in grace with love in our hearts forever and ever. Amen. So we do have a few announcements to share. The first one, Natalie, before I forget, I know that Dunedin across the street, the wrestling team is having a car wash, so I didn't want to forget that one. Also, I think we still have a need for hospitality volunteers for the 24th of November, next week, and December 1st. So have you signed up? Thank you very much. So I think there's still a need for the 1st. I could be wrong about that, but we definitely need to fill those slots because I know Dawn is not going to be here. The poinsettias for Christmas, payments are due. So if you have signed up, I think we have 43 people, or there's 43 poinsettias to honor loved ones who've passed and honor those who are important to us. They're $13 a piece. So please make sure that you're able to get a check or payment to the church office. The gift cards for HEP although today was going to be the last day, Michelle Friedman kindly stepped up and said that she would be accepting gifts through next week. So if you haven't had a chance to donate a gift card, all of the proceeds collected are going to go towards people in need at HEP. So it's a very worthy cause, especially this time of year. So I, for one, did not follow through yet, so I commit to doing that between now and next Sunday. And then we do have another announcement, and it is regarding, oh, yes, Lori.
Can you share that over the last 2 weeks, we had a total of 617 pounds donated to the
617 pounds of donations to Dunedin Cares over the past 2 weeks, which is amazing. So thank you. I think I did see that they're looking for coffee right now. Is that correct? I don't know. I don't know if you shared that or where I saw that, but I think that's a need they have. And
salad dressing.
And salad dressing. Okay.
They
Yes.
use everything.
They do. I mean, honestly, toilet paper, you name it. There's always, yeah.
I volunteer on Friday sometimes, and the shelves were bare. I mean, we had stuff in the warehouse, but they are going through it.
I think what's so sad to me is that, we are a very generous congregation, over 600 pounds, just us, and yet there's still that great need. So unfortunately, there's a lot of people in need. Things are expensive right now, so please continue to do what you've been doing. Another announcement, Beth Ann, would you like to, I guess, come up? There may be a slide. We'll see. It might be the next one.
It was the last one.
Okay. All right. Sorry. Fire me. I know. Gosh.
Well, my big concern was that after Nan was going to have you empty your pockets and your purses, that I would have to postpone this announcement to another day, but thank goodness she didn't. Several years ago, Carl and I were very fortunate to attend a concert at the Frist Art Museum in Nashville where Carl had a conference. And Mean Mary was playing. And ever since then, we have been a Mean Mary groupie. Anytime she's anywhere that we can travel, we've gone to see her and actually sponsored another concert. So we are very excited that she's coming. We've never had the opportunity to see her perform with her brother Frank. As you can see, he has a 12-string guitar there. And Mary has been named the Deering Banjo Good Time Ambassador for that company. She plays 12 instruments, I think, but she's equally adept on the guitar, fiddle, and many other instruments, which I'm sure that she will be playing during her concert, which will be both Christmas carols along with many originals. She is a storyteller, and I think you'll enjoy that too. So she has been called by a magazine in Nashville as the voice of having the voice of a ragged angel combined with the banjo playing of the devil. And, and she can really go on that banjo, let me tell you. Mike, in the last few weeks, has asked why she could be called Mean Mary, and you will wonder yourselves when you see what a kind, gentle, loving woman she is. But if you want to find out the answer to that mystery, you're going to have to attend the concert, and she'll let you know why she's called Mean Mary. So let me see. So it's on December 15th. We're going to have a brunch, very lovely Christmas brunch, and with finger food that you can then bring in to enjoy the concert. Also on, I believe, 3 songs. Is that right, Roger? 3 songs? Our Strings and Things will be accompanying Mary and her brother. And we're all very excited about that. I know Roger has been communicating with Mary, and they're all set to go, right? Yeah. So if you have, we'll be selling tickets. I'm glad you have some money in your purses and pockets today. After church today, and before and after church the next couple Sundays. So thank you.
Okay. As you see on the board, and this has really been a theme this morning based on some of Marge's comments and Nan's sermon. So hopefully many of us have been inspired to, as Mike says, if these your pant pockets are just holding you down with all that change and cash, we want to help everyone out. So feel free to get that burden lifted. We have offering plates in the back, and for those of us joining online, feel free to make those contributions through Vanco or PayPal, or sending contributions directly to the church office. On behalf of the church, I would like to wish everyone a peace-filled week, one walked with intention, courage, and in tune with the awe and wonder of the world around us. As always, let us sing our way out of here with our benediction song, Let There Be Peace on Earth.